typically debt recycling is important if you are in the wealth creation journey, right? Because you want that money that you're going to get from the bank at say 5, 6, 7% interest. And if you can generate a cash on cash return of 15, 20, 30% on it, then it's a no-brainer, right? And that's how typically the wealth is being created. What you want to do is you want to get access to that debt, keep it tax deductible, reinvest that and get a better cash on cash return so that you can multiply that wealth. Let's get into the mistakes, and this is the fun part, right? Let's kick off with the first mistake, or the first most important mistake that you feel people make when it comes to refinancing.
I'll tell you an example. I had a client who had refinanced almost 4 times a year. People don't realize that it impacts your credit score. So any inquiry, it goes on a credit profile, it sits for 7 years. So if you're looking to build a portfolio, if you're looking for a long-term one, just beware of, just for the few cashbacks, that strategy is not really viable. You have to look at the long-term wave. So I had a client who had 23 inquiries in 1 year. So he was the one who used to take all the credit card offers and close it off, take new credit card, close it off, take a loan, refinance. And when his early broker applied for the loan, it got auto declined. So we had to go to a lender, don't look at the credit score and all. So then again, you're delimiting your options over there. So it's important to make sure that your credit score is really nice. So that's one of the mistakes that people do. Second is bank loyalty. So what people do is that I'm with this bank. I've seen people staying with the same lender, paying a higher interest rate and not changing. So I'd say that every single year you have to see, and that's what I do with my clients, is that we do annual reviews and see if the client is on the best rates. If not, then we can refinance. But people don't realize that having that bank loyalty will cost you a lot of money.
Ultimately, if you talk about bank loyalty, right, I think people are not so much loyal to the bank, right? It's more about the paperwork that comes with it, right? A lot of the times, and I know that, I used to be loyal to NAB for almost 14 years, right? Before I divorced them in 2016. And it wasn't so much the loyalty with the bank because that, they are milking you out of, all of the assets that you're holding. What you're scared of is this, constant sort of, I need to provide this and that, or all of this paperwork. And so naturally what you think is that if I'm going to stick with the same bank, they have all of that information and it makes your life easier. What you don't realize is that the longer you stay with one bank, the more information they have on you, which basically means that they control your life a lot more. To that extent that, at one given point in time, probably NAB knew, how many times do I shit during the day, to that extent, like they knew exactly how much I was spending, where I was spending. And so there was nothing under the radar, about this typical bank. Now, of course, I'm not saying that, you need to hide stuff from the bank or you need to lie on the applications. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that it provides you a much better advantage if you are going to go with competing banks, right? So 2016, I went from a single dominated bank to now probably like 8 different banks that I've loans with, right? And so ultimately what, people need to realize, or the viewers need to realize, is that these days, the application for the broking side of things and the mortgage brokers have made the application process so easy that you don't have to worry about any of this. Everything is online. There is, bankstatements.com.au where you just jump in and type the details and they'll take away your bank statements. Gone are those days where you have to download PDFs and send it across. And so the process is a lot more streamlined right now. And so typically I do agree that, bank loyalties is not to be surfaced, at all, when it comes to refinancing.
Another mistake that commonly I've seen a lot of people do is when they refinance 2 or 3 properties, they cross-collateralize. So bank love that. Yes. And it's not a viable strategy. So we want to make sure that all the properties have separate and not cross-collateralized. So that's one of the mistakes that a lot of people do.
Why do you think banks love it? And of course, I know this, but it's for the viewers. Why do you think that the banks want to cross-collateralize the properties?
It's a security for them. It's an additional security. And especially when you want to move out one particular property, it's a hassle as well. So banks want to hold the client. They want to hold all these 3-4 properties, and they love that. But having that individual separate loans will really helps you. And if you want to move out of that particular bank, it's easier as well.
Correct. And I think banks play a really interesting game. I shouldn't say dirty, but a very interesting game here when it comes to cross-collateralizing, right? They'll come to you and say, hey, you don't need to pay us anything. There is no refinance cost. We'll give you all the money. You don't have to pay any deposit. We'll just use this property to cross it against your new investment property. And people think that, oh, gee, that's really good. Well, typically that's exactly what you're doing when you are, setting up and refinancing and then getting the loan. Basically, that's the same process. It's just a broken down process into two with maybe two different banks, and you can leverage better rates, better relationships, better everything. In relation to the breaking the loans, let's talk a bit about that. A lot of people, when they are moving away from, refinancing or doing refinances and moving into various different banks, yes, the cashback really helps them. But what happens to people who are on fixed loans? Have you seen some of those mistakes that people make on breaking these fixed loans when they're refinancing?
Yes. So, see, it makes sense if you're going from, high rate to a lower rate. But if you're going from lower rate to maybe higher rate, it really doesn't make sense. Especially during the COVID period, there were a lot of people who were breaking that fixed period because they wanted that lower term. So bank will charge you extra amount to break that cost. So you have to take that into calculation. And just because new lender is offering you a better rate doesn't mean that you'll be profitable. You have to calculate that, because what the exit cost or the break cost is going to be versus what the amount that you're going to save. You have to do that calculation and then only decide whether it's really worth fixing that loan and breaking that cost.